Governor, thank you so much for joining us on CNBC. We appreciate it. First of all, please tell me how significant is today with Saudi Arabia taking presidency of the G20? What will this mean for the kingdom and its economy?
First of all, thank you for hosting me today, and thanks for coming to Riyadh to attend the conference here. The presidency is coming at when the global economy is at a crossroad. If you look at a number of risks taking place, you see them right now, whether the geopolitics, trade tensions, probably the cyber, more vulnerabilities in the financial sector. So it is something that will be leading the globe, the G20, which is a very important group to lead the global economy. So the presidency means that we have a heavy duty to work on, along with our colleagues from the other G20 members. We need to continue the agenda of the G20 to address the global economy risks, to work on the financial vulnerabilities, such as in the financial regulations as well. We have achieved a lot as the G20 group, but we need to do more and more work in the coming, and we are hoping that in the presidency of Saudi Arabia, we will be making a difference.
With regards to the global outlook, we did see the IMF downgrading its own global growth forecasts for 2020 last week, and it says the projected recovery remains uncertain. How is that going to impact Saudi Arabia's economy?
Well, Saudi Arabia economy is one economy in the global economy. So it is inseparable from the global economy. It is, as you know, very well connected to the global economy, either through the trade channel or through the financial sector. Therefore, any impact on the global growth would obviously make some dent to the local economy. However, it depends on the policies that you are using, and that's why we have very active now fiscal policy. We have accommodative monetary policy. We are going through a good program of structural changes right now, and we try to counteract all the risks coming from the rest of the world, if any.
I also wanted to ask you about that as well, because what we've seen in Saudi Arabia in recent years is deep and compelling market reforms. This is transforming the economy, it's transforming society. What would you say is the next phase of that liberalization of the economy and the market? What happens next?
Well, what you see, particularly in the diversification of the economic base right now, and I wanted to emphasize here in particular the opening up of the tourism sector, which is very noticeable for tourism and entertainment sector to be open to the rest of the world. And I think this is a step in the right direction when it comes to economic diversification. I'm hoping that we do more when it comes to economic diversification, and we have been planning and we have been implementing, but we know most of that type of work will take time to see more results and more fruitful results. However, some of the service sectors that have been impacted by opening up the tourism sector, we have seen the results. In fact, in the recent readings coming by the Statistics Authority.
The IMF said that Saudi Arabia's economy is only going to grow at 1.9% this year, and it said that is going to grow at that rate because of lower oil output and lower oil prices. Do you have a forecast range for oil prices that would be supportive for the Saudi Arabian economy in 2020 and supportive of its budget?
Well, in fact, we prefer not to forecast the oil prices, but we do forecast for our GDP growth. We are not far from that reading coming from the IMF. However, we might be more optimistic when it comes to the private sector, as I told you, coming from one, tourism sector, We have seen a very strong pickup in the retail sector, in the transportation sector, in the construction sector as well. All these sectors constitute more than 60% of the private sector. So there is a strong pickup, and we are hoping that the non-oil sector will be a leading to more economic growth this year. Oil sector, it depends, as we just talked about. It depends on the global economy and the demand on oil, of course.
Also wanted to ask you about the situation with the US Federal Reserve. Overnight we saw the US Fed deciding to keep rates unchanged. President Donald Trump in the United States says that the Fed raised rates too fast and then lowered rates too slowly. Given how significantly Fed policy impacts Saudi Arabia's own policy, would you agree with the president?
Well, we continue to watch the movements in the global market, whether the financial markets or the moves from all the monetary policy makers, particularly the Federal Reserve, because of the connection with our exchange rate. I don't comment on these, but I can assure you that we are comfortable with the moves we are seeing. It is serving our economy because more accommodation coming from the monetary policy here in Saudi Arabia will be impacting our economy positively.
Would you like to see lower rates in the United States?
I don't want to comment on the United States, but I see very good pickup on the growth in the U.S. economy, as we have seen in the recent readings. But whether it impacts us or not, that's why we continue to watch the moves. And also we read the press releases coming from the Federal Reserve carefully.
How would you characterize the state of the region today as well? We've seen tensions between the United States and Iran boiling over this year. There's more unrest in other countries like Lebanon, for example, and in Iraq as well. How is SAMA going to mitigate some of the risks of these external events on the Saudi Arabian economy? And is it a concern?
Well, if you read the surveillance coming from the IMF or any other international organizations, you would notice that the geopolitics and unrest is one risk factor among many other risks. What is going on in the region is also, you see it in some parts of the world as well. More unrests are taking place. It might be impacting the global economy, but again, there are some other risks coming, like the coronavirus. We need to make sure what will be the aftermath risk later on. Geopolitics is always in our mind when we set our policy, whether in the region or in the rest of the world, and we continue, as I said, to monitor the situation.
Are you concerned about the possible impact of the coronavirus in Saudi Arabia or across this region?
Well, we have been watching this carefully, at least in the financial sector. If there is sluggish growth as a result of the coronavirus, it will definitely impact the rest of the world, and we are part of that world.
Governor, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.